First, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing burgundy trimmed with gold, official weight 131.2 pounds. His professional record, 20 victories, including 15 wins by knockout, only 2 defeats, with 4 fights even, from Camden, New Jersey, USA, and Puerto Rico, USA. Jason El Canito Sosa. And across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wearing red trimmed with white, officially weighing in at 130.6 pounds. His professional record, an outstanding one with 27 victories, including 17 wins by knockout, only 2 defeats. Originally from Cuba, but now living, training, and fighting out of Miami, Florida, USA, the former IBF and WBA featherweight champion of the world, El Ciclón de Guantánamo, Yuriorkis Gamboa.
Chief Second. Gentlemen, I've given you the rules of the New York State Athletic Commission. I remind you both now, respect each other, obey my commands, and let's keep it strictly professional. Good luck to you both. Buena suerte.
Joined now at ringside by Roy Jones and Max Kellerman. Max?
Sosa missed weight by a little over a pound. I asked Gamboa about it. He said 475 times as an amateur I made weight, and this will be his 30th time as a professional. And that the first victory a fighter needs to claim is on the scales. You got to win that first before you win your fight. So he feels pretty good about this. But Sosa, we know, still wants to be a fighter. And what we need to find out right now from Gamboa is if the same is true of him.
And Roy, it's part of the cruelty of boxing that you are defined more by your losses than your wins. Gamboa has 27 wins, but his identity is housed in the 2 knockout losses to Terrence Crawford and Robinson Castellanos.
Yeah, it is, but both guys have two knockout losses, Jim, so they kind of mirror to one another. Sosa has 2 stoppages in both of his losses, so both guys are kind of the same. No big issue with this because they're both experienced fighters. They're around the same size. They're at turning points in their career. Whoever wins this fight will go forward. Whoever loses will go backwards.
The most recent knockout loss for Jason Sosa was a fight which was stopped earlier this year against Vasily Lomachenko. Of course, Lomachenko has had a series of those experiences in which the opponent ultimately simply checked out because they could not deal with his multiple skills. Even Sosa conceded, you can't judge me or any other fighter off of what happens against Lomachenko. He's simply too good.
Yeah, he is that good, Jim. And what the biggest thing about Lomachenko, and it's similar in this fight, is the amateur background. He has such an enormous amateur background, and Sosa probably doesn't have, I think he had, 3 fights, Max?
Yeah.
Amateur fights?
Sosa had 3 amateur fights.
Yeah, so he doesn't have that extended amateur background.
Let's not forget it wasn't all that long ago that Gamboa was thought to be something like Lomachenko. An Olympic gold medalist, a freakish athlete, blinding speed, better power than Lomachenko, if not better technique.
And actually more amateur fights than Lomachenko.
Yes, he was a dominant, dynamic amateur and professional. Gamboa, also not all that long ago, beat Salido easily, and it was considered a little bit of a disappointment that he didn't beat him even more easily. So he has fallen quite a ways in the estimation of most.
Michael Buffer reflexively said 12 rounds in his opening introductions. Let's make clear the fight is scheduled for 10 rounds, not 12. The only 12-round fight on tonight's card is the main event between Kovalev and Shabransky.
And I think they had a headbutt just then, Jim, a little while back. I think they collided, and I saw Gamboa touch over his right eye as though he had been headbutted. So
hard right hand by Gamboa.
Good body shot.
Good body shot.
And Gamboa can start fast. He got the drop on Terrence Crawford in Omaha for the first 3-4 rounds with his hand speed and dynamism, but ultimately Crawford made adjustments and beat him down.
In terms of skills and speed and all that stuff, Gamboa is superior. When it comes down to who wants it, who still wants to be a fighter when the going gets tough, there's a feeling that maybe Gamboa doesn't have in the tank what Sosa has.
Esa es la cosa.
That's it. That's how to do it. Very good. Very good. Okay? That guy, he's got nothing else than what we worked on and what we studied. Okay? Now, see that he comes in this way. So he's loading this way, and then the right, yours right over his. Fast. Just let it go a little bit long. All right? When he brings that one down, bring it over the top, and then the uppercut. Upper. Keep bothering with movement.
Here you see right here, Jim, as Sosa was coming in, they both engaged, and there was a headbutt that may have caused an abrasion over Gamboa's eye, or at least there'll be a knot that may form later on in the fight.
And a hard shot to the left hip by Jason Sosa. Perhaps unnoticed by referee Ron Lipton, or perhaps marked for later reference. Jason Sosa in the first round was coming forward 46% of the time, according to our new movement calculating machinery here at HBO. Not sure it's such a great idea for Sosa, who is not the quicker of the two fighters, to be going forward into Gamboa's wheelhouse.
Well, in his case, Jim, the thing about fighting the Cubans is that they have an extended amateur background. So what you want to do is push them early to get them through those first 3 or 4 rounds. Then you try to beat them in the later rounds, and that's what I'm sure Sosa's plan is here. And Gamboa only had 3 weeks, I think, to get ready for this fight.
Yeah, with a new trainer.
Well, Robinson Castellanos, who knocked Gamboa out in Gamboa's last fight, was supposed to be the opponent against Jason Sosa. But he suffered an injury in training camp, which created the opportunity for Gamboa to step in and get the appearance here in a fight opportunity he really didn't earn, but rather was given.
It was given at Jim, but 15 days, I mean, you're a beast for taking that, especially with a new trainer. So he's coming in some very tough circumstances and trying to pull out a big victory here. If he can do that, he will be saying a lot as far as him coming back and being a figure in this weight division.
In the old days, you would have said the skill level edge is so big for Gamboa that that's not that big a problem. But question marks have grown throughout Gamboa's career.
Gamboa working with the coach of many Cuban national amateur teams. And they admittedly, the goal here is not to look spectacular and blow away the opponent. The goal is to get by this fight with a win. And the feeling is that after that, working together will be fruitful to bring Gamboa back to what he once was.
2 clean body shots by Gamboa. Solid investment for the future.
Yes, and part of the reason a guy like Gamboa would take a fight like this, Jim, is that he feels that his pedigree, his amateur pedigree, is so superior to Sosa's that he should be able to beat Sosa even on 3 weeks of training.
Sosa backs down to no one according to amateur pedigree or pro pedigree. He went in and gave his best shot against Lomachenko. Earlier, he got a controversial draw against Nicholas Walters at a moment when Walters was regarded as one of the top 2 fighters in the division. Most of us felt that the scores in that fight were incorrect, but nevertheless, Sosa got credit for a draw.
See Sosa able to land some heavy leather so far. Gamboa taking it very well, although a cut just opened up, I think, over his right eye from a left hook from Sosa, it looks to me.
And that would be the cut that was initiated by the headbutt in the first round.
And they may have just had another one. Oh, good overhand right by Sosa.
Sosa's landing upstairs. Gamboa landing cleanly downstairs. It's been an active, aggressive fight through the first couple of rounds. Next Saturday night on World Championship Boxing, Miguel Cotto says he is saying goodbye following a sensational 17-year run as a professional prize fighter. Cotto will take on Saddam Ali in his home away from home next door here in the big room at Madison Square Garden. December 9, it's an all-action boxing after dark triple header headlined by Orlando Salido's matchup with fellow rough and tumble veteran Miguel Roman. And December 16, Billy Joe Saunders puts his middleweight title and undefeated record on the line against knockout artist David Lemieux. Now there's a style matchup for you. The counterpuncher Saunders against one of the monster punchers of boxing, David Lemieux.
Keep the chin down just in case you try to counter with the right. Understand that?
Round 3 begins. Because it's a 10-round fight rather than a 12-round fight, we get to our unofficial scorer, Harold Letterman, a little bit earlier tonight. Harold, how'd you score the first two?
Oh, okay, Jim. I got it 1-1. I mean, I gave each guy a round, 19-19. I gave the first round to Yuriorkis Gamboa. I thought he did more. I gave the second round to Jason Sosa because he was landing those hard right hands. So 1 round apiece, all even so far.
I didn't break in on you, Harold, because referee Ron Lipton ruled that a slip rather than a knockdown. Clearly, Gamboa tripped over Sosa's lead foot.
You know, there's a sense that Gamboa's a faded fighter, if not a shot fighter. But, Roy, I don't see him reacting to punches the way a fighter who needs to hang it up reacts to punches sometimes. His legs are still there when he gets hit. He's getting hit more often than he did several years ago, but he's taking it pretty well. The question with a fighter at this stage in his career is how much does he still want it? If a punishing fight, as the rounds pile up in a punishing fight, is he willing to dig deep and really fight it out to get the win?
Yeah, well, with a fighter like Gamboa, though, Max, you see Sosa land 2 really good body shots right there, and he's a flash knockdown guy. He's not the type of guy who you'll be able to tell over a period of time that he needs to hang it up, because he's never taken an accumulation of punches. It's usually 1 or 2 punches that put him down.
Yeah.
Well, in his last fight, Gamboa lost to Robinson Castellanos of Mexico, and given that Castellanos has 10 losses, you might say to yourself, oh, well, that means Gamboa is totally done. But if you look beneath the record, you realize that Castellanos is an all-or-nothing right-hand puncher who could do that to anybody. In fact, in his preceding fight, he knocked down division titleist Jezreel Corrales twice.
And Gamboa blames his recent, ineffectiveness at a certain level on inactivity. And there is a legitimate point of view there. He had 475 amateur fights, and then in recent years he's been fighting once a year.
And with a guy who can punch, who has a good right hand, like you just said, Jim, if you've been knocked down 9 times already in your professional career, it's likely that he can knock you down 3 more.
Which he did.
Gamboa's used to activity throughout most of his life, and then last several years, very little activity, so it's understandable he wouldn't be sharp.
Well, he was in the fight of the year 3 years ago against Terrence Crawford. Roy, did he make a mistake going up in weight and going on the road to fight Crawford in his hometown?
Yes, I think he made a big mistake going up in weight and going to Crawford's hometown to fight him, because Crawford was not a small guy at 135. He was a big 135-pounder. Gamboa was a small guy at 135.
Let me tell you something. You could make a mistake fighting Crawford on the moon if you're the bigger guy. Doesn't matter where or what size. It might be a mistake to fight Crawford.
But Gamboa was getting the better of him in the first 3 or 4 rounds. Until we saw that, what has become the trademark adjustment for Crawford, the switch to southpaw.
You're headhunting too much, okay? You gotta understand one thing. Listen, relax. He's short. That right's not gonna work because you're going over the head. Give it to me nice and straight. He's here for you. Work on 2 shots. Straight right and up the middle with the uppercut.
A beautiful left hook right there. Sosa's hook fell a little short. That's where that experience comes in. When 2 guys trade, one guy knows the distance just a little bit better than the other guy because of experience.
Round 4 of the scheduled 10. Yuriorkis Gamboa against Jason Sosa.
Gamboa just landed a good left hook to the body. And Sosa is very smart, Jim. He knows that Gamboa only prepared for 3 weeks for this fight, so his goal is to try to push Gamboa to make him work early in these rounds to get him fatigued. If he can get fatigued on his side, he has a better chance of neutralizing all of that experience that Gamboa has.
Hoping that it would benefit him later in the fight, but Harold Letterman already has Sosa up a round in the early going after only 3 rounds. So we'll see whether Gamboa can gain control of this. The rounds are close enough that they could have gone anyway on the official scorecards.
Gamboa is still fast, and the inactivity, as I mentioned, means he's not as sharp as he was. The other thing is he moved up in weight, and that left hook we just saw him land, Roy, against a junior featherweight or featherweight produces maybe a knockdown.
Yep.
And against a larger fighter, not the same power.
Nope, I agree 100%.
Break. Stop holding. Box.
I like that.
Good body shot by Gamboa.
The ref, I like that stop holding.
Little burst there for the Cuban fighter. Now Sosa tries to answer back.
Stern warning from the ref, and by the way, what it results in is better product for the fans. I mean, Gamboa now forced to pull out actual defensive moves instead of doing what he's doing right there.
Step back. Box.
You feel really bad for guys like Gamboa who have to deal with that inactivity range, because you never know what they could have been had they not had the inactivity. Kind of saying like we saw with Nicholas Walters when he finally fought Lomachenko. That's a fight that I think would have been a much better fight had Nicholas Walters been active.
Couldn't have been a worse fight. I mean, Walters had nothing for him.
Not at all. I don't think he would have necessarily won, but being active would have definitely helped him be more competitive.
A better version of himself.
And gave him more confidence in trying to beat the best fighter in that division.
Well, Yuriorkis Gamboa took a big gamble when he defected from Cuba to the United States. Here's another former Cuban amateur, Sullivan Barrera, light heavyweight, once beaten only by Andre Ward, who dominated him. He's the favorite in the second fight of the evening against Felix Valera. You can see that just like Gamboa, he is from Guantanamo. Had a good amateur record, no Olympic gold medal like Gamboa. Recently moved from Big Bear, California, where he trained under Abel Sanchez, to Miami so that he can be closer to his 11-year-old daughter as he continues working to try to bring her from Cuba to the United States. And he had a knockout win over Slava Shabransky, whom you'll see in the main event against Sergey Kovalev. And in his last fight, a brilliant performance against Joe Smith, where he was knocked down in the first round and then came back to dominate for the rest of the fight and got the win over Smith. CompuBox numbers in round 4. Gamboa doubling Sosa up, landing 16 out of 51 to 8 of 39 for Sosa. Sosa slowing down just a little bit in that 4th round. You see that now they're even on Harold Letterman's unofficial card. Good hard right hand by Gamboa.
I mean, that's what you saw Gamboa do just then. It's flashes of what he's capable of doing. Fast hands, fast feet with pop.
But you see that balance right there too, Max.
Yep.
That balance has been an issue throughout his whole career. So a lot of his knockdowns, and I said 9 earlier, but he's been down in 9 fights. So we don't know how many knockdowns that is, but a lot of it is due to that bad balance.
Yeah, he squares up, and he has no anchor foot to stop him from getting pushed back and knocked down that way. And earlier in his career, he was a very aggressive fighter.
In one recent fight, he was on the canvas 5 times with slips. Now, they're slips. They don't count against you, but they're indicative of your overall balance, and it's been a problem, as you guys say, throughout his career.
It actually made him more exciting coming up because he was this overwhelming offensive fighter with bad balance who'd have to get up off the canvas to finish these guys.
Clean right hand by Sosa, answered by right hand from Gamboa.
So much respect for the Cuban school of boxing. You see a guy like Gamboa brought in from Sosa's point of view with the hopes that you can put a name on his resume. Inactive recently, not sharp, we've talked about it. Very much in this fight, and throughout much of it outboxing Sosa because of that great amateur pedigree.
And that says a lot for Sosa too, though, because how many people would think from 3 amateur fights that they could come to this level of professional boxing?
Yeah, he's just a tough, determined guy.
Almost impossible. 3 amateur fights.
Well, it's a mark of the toughness, the determination, the consistency of effort that we've seen from Jason Sosa, that this is his third appearance on HBO. He's not the kind of talent you would expect to have appeared on this telecast 3 times, but he's a known commodity in the ring.
I mean, how many of us can say we got nearly as many HBO appearances as we have amateur fights?
That's right.
Put another 3 there, make it 33, and he do match Roy Jones, who had more appearances on HBO than any of the other star fighters we've covered.
That's it.
December 12th, tune into the year-end special of Real Sports as Bryant and the show's correspondents recount some of their most memorable moments of 2017. And mark your calendars for December 13 and December 27 for this year's final 2 installments of my show, The Fight Game, where, as always, we'll look at the biggest stories and issues in boxing. The regular December edition of The Fight Game, December 13, the year-end edition, December 27.
Box him, box him, box him. Bother him, keep bothering him. He's a bull. He always comes in. He's losing. You're a great boxer. And the great boxers are the ones that move. And you're just what you're doing all night.
Understand that? Come on. Right? Let's go.
Our movement profile continues to show Sosa as the guy who's going forward nearly a majority of the time. Going forward 44% of the time to 14% for Gamboa. You expect a guy who perceives himself as a great counterpuncher with hand speed like Gamboa to be backing up some of the time. Harold Letterman, how do you have it unofficially through 5?
Hey, Jim, if you got it 44 and 14, who's doing all the moving forward the rest of the time? All right, I got it 3-2, 40, 48, 47, Yuriorkis Gamboa. You know, Jim, in rounds 4 and 5, I thought Yuriorkis Gamboa boxed really nice. In rounds 2 and 3, on the other hand, I thought Jason Sosa landed the harder shots. I think he's the harder puncher. But Gamboa boxed really nice in the 4th round and the 5th round, and now he's got the lead by 1 round, 1 point on my card. So I got it 48-47, Yuriorkis Gamboa.
Step back. Box.
And to my eyes, it appears Gamboa is showing grit and determination here tonight against Sosa. Working hard to try to build a significant edge in the fight. There's a good left hook.
So far, but the test is coming for him in these next several rounds, because inevitably he will be hit, and Sosa is a heavy-handed guy, and if he can maintain this kind of control that he's shown in the last several rounds in spite of that, then Gamboa will have taken a step toward rehabilitating his career.
At age 35. When most fighters here at the featherweight to lightweight range are thinking about packing it in.
Yeah, because they've usually taken so much punishment, Jim, but because of his balance and his, his erratic style, he gets knocked down usually because he is off balance. So I don't really think he's taken a whole lot of punishment.
Yeah.
And at 130, he seems to be absorbing these punches a little better even than he did at 135. Because Sosa has hit him with some really good punches, and his knees haven't really buckled. He hasn't gone down from a headshot, so he's taken them pretty good.
Well, of course, 135-pounders hit a little harder. And Terrence Crawford, that was an entirely different story.
Now you see Gamboa's left eye, it's starting to swell. He looks a little bit tired, momentarily at least. And here's where he starts to test and find out for himself how much he wants to be a fighter still.
And he has a real test in front of him, because Jason Sosa definitely will not back down. These are his best chances and best rounds to try to win the fight in.
CompuBox numbers are not one-sided, though Gamboa has the edge. Sosa, no doubt, feels as though he's right where he wants to be. The worker bee trying to overhaul the glamour star in the latter half of the fight.
Let him go.
Still to come tonight, the main event, Sergey Kovalev coming off his 2 consecutive losses to Andre Ward, both of them somewhat controversial, both of him, in his view, somewhat unfair to him. Will try to regain his footing in the light heavyweight division and win a vacant title belt, a title that he once held, against Vyacheslav Sabransky. known to his friends as Slava Shabransky. And UC trainer Manny Robles, they're wrapping Shabransky's hands. Robles is from Southern California, but has been the Ukrainian Shabransky's trainer ever since his amateur days. We are live in the theater at Madison Square Garden, the small room, 33rd Street and 8th Avenue here in New York City, while we give you a panoramic look at the Chrysler Building, not too terribly far away. Yuriorkis Gamboa, Jason Sosa, round 7 of a scheduled 10.
What I liked about what Gamboa did in the last round, which was not as dominant as he had been in the previous two, I thought, was that even as he appeared to visibly tire,
Gamboa's glove touched the canvas, and here is yet another knockdown of Yuriorkis Gamboa, and that's a big event because it sets Jason Sosa up for what could be a 2-point round at a critical moment in the fight.
Yeah, that was a good right hand that hurt him, buckled Gamboa's legs. But like we said, he's that guy that usually one punch does it, and like Max said, this is the time that it usually happens to him.
Yeah. But he's been trying to box responsibly as he's tired, but not having a lot of time to prepare for the fight is, you know, likely not in the best shape or the shape that he'd normally be in.
Good left hook by Gamboa, who's trying to regain some of what he has lost already in this round as the result of the knockdown.
You better stop holding him and take a point from you. I'm telling you to stop holding.
That would really hurt too.
Understand?
That would hurt bad.
So it remains to be seen if Ron Lipton just did Gamboa a favor by telling him to fight, not hold.
Break.
But no doubt, staring at the possibility of a 2-point round for Sosa here, Gamboa does not want to incur a penalty point to go with it.
No, he's got the wrong ref in with him on a night where he needs to gut it out.
Stop punching.
In certain rounds and against a puncher who might hurt him if he's having stamina issues. That's a good right hand landed by Sosa just then.
Let him go. Break.
1 minute to go in the 7th round, and this situation is getting a little bit forbidding now for Yuriorkis Gamboa.
Yeah, he's throwing a lot of arm punches, Jim. Oh, that body shot hurt him bad. He's throwing a lot of arm punches, and when you throw those arm punches, you allow yourself to be caught by a big punch from a real puncher because you're throwing arm punches, and your head is right there in the middle, and no defense.
And he's not really holding. He's holding and just trying to stop holding before the ref takes a point because he's been warned already about the holding.
And now Lipton warns one or the other of them for hitting behind the head. I'm not 100% certain at whom that particular warning was issued.
I like those kind of warnings, but they're atypical. That was a pretty early stage in the fight to give the warning, you know, according to most standards.
And Sosa seems to be coming alive here.
It's a 2-point round, most likely, for Jason Sosa in the 7th after a knockdown of Yuriorkis Gamboa. And this marks the 10th different fight in which Gamboa has tasted the canvas.
Head also took his legs away.
So now Sosa may have a little bit of a working advantage as we come to the 8th of the scheduled 10. Sosa outlanded Gamboa 19-15 in that last round. He's done great work in recent rounds with that straight right hand, and there you see Harold Letterman's unofficial card. Now finds Sosa 2 points ahead. They were even coming to the 7th. The 2-point round gives him a 2-point margin on Harold Letterman's card with 3 rounds left to go.
And Max, at this point in the fight is when you throw the skill level, the amateur pedigree out the window, because now it no longer matters.
Yeah, I feel as though Gamboa was boxing pretty well given his activity level in recent years. Fighting once a year, you're not anticipating is going to be super sharp. I thought he was boxing well, and I think he was gassed around the 5th or 6th round. He ran out of gas.
And Max, you've mentioned Gamboa's illustrious Cuban amateur-trained trainer, Pedro Roque Otano. And you heard Jerry Olaya interpreting between rounds, saying Otano had told him, well, you've won 7 rounds, you lost 1. Fact is, there were only 7 rounds up to that point, so you have to hope that Yuriorkis Gamboa knows that, and knows that there are 3 rounds remaining in the fight, not only 2. 2.5 rounds at this point.
Gamboa is trying to mask the fatigue, it seems to me, and he's doing a pretty good job of conning Sosa and keeping Sosa's activity level tame.
Yeah, but Sosa just missed with a beautiful left hook that may have caused some problems. Even he grunted afterwards because he realized he missed it.
I think he landed the right hand. Left hook to the body by Sosa. Another left hook lands upstairs. Not a big blow, but enough to alter Gamboa's path. Now he backs Gamboa into a corner and hammers him with a right hand to the body.
The punches are getting much closer for Sosa now. So his chances to land a knockout shot are getting very, very probable.
You think Gamboa is tiring?
Well, yeah, he is tiring. That's why he's not moving as much, and he's not using his legs for defense, which were usually his best line of defense. See how he didn't move his head at all then? Sosa just fell short by a little bit. That's what you hate to see in a guy, because if that guy ever gets that spacing right and times it right, that shot could end the fight because you're not reacting to it at all.
8th round coming to a close. Time running out for Yuriorkis Gamboa in this fight. The question is time running out on his once celebrated professional career? Following tonight's live boxing, stay with us for Miguel Cotto, a retrospective, a 30-minute special celebrating the career of the Puerto Rican legend with Cotto himself. Cotto makes what he says will be the final ring appearance of his Hall of Fame career next Saturday when he defends his 154-pound title belt against Saddam Ali in the big room here at Madison Square Garden. Talk about a tumultuous career, Max. Miguel Cotto has seen the bottom and the top of this sport in his 17 years.
Yep, and some of that time spent on the bottom seems as though it was the result of his being cheated out of the trajectory his career was likely to take.
You're talking about the fight against Antonio Margarito and the implications of what Margarito was found to be doing 6 months later.
Yep.
We'll talk about that in Miguel Cotto, a retrospective. That show airs tonight following this telecast. And now round 9 of a scheduled 10. Harold Letterman, how do you have it unofficially at this point?
Okay, Jim, I got it 74, 77, 74, 5 rounds to 3 for Jason Sosa. You know, Jim, I think he's landing the hardest shots. He really is. You know, early on I thought that Yuriorkis Gamboa was boxing Sosa, but in the last 3 rounds I've given every one of them to Sosa, who I think is landing the hardest, strongest shots, harder, cleanest, strongest shots. I think that, you know, when you guys started saying Yuriorkis Gamboa was tiring, you were 100% correct, and Sosa was starting to land that hard right hand he throws. 5-3, Jason Sosa. Jim, one last thing. We talked about Ron Lipton, the referee. You know, he's a very experienced referee. Been working in New York for years and years and years. He's finally starting to get a break a little bit more. Does a nice job. He really does.
But he's an activist referee. And Gamboa might have been better off tonight with a referee who was a little bit more laissez-faire.
Yeah, I agree with the philosophy of warning fighters about holding earlier than is commonly the case, because it gives the fans a better product. It's okay to fight defensively, but holding is not really fighting. But it is atypical. When Lipton warned Gamboa early that he would take a point away, it's forced Gamboa to hold tactically only briefly, which for a tiring fighter is an issue.
And he's very tired now because we've seen him we're seeing him hold almost every time they come close now.
Yep. Took the fight on 3 weeks' notice. Was not originally scheduled to be the opponent. 35 years old, trying to sustain what has been a more challenging professional career than anybody thought would be the case when he arrived from Cuba with all that talent, all that physical wherewithal.
Stop holding, or I'm going to take a point.
And there's Ron Lipton telling him that he is one hold away from another point deduction in the fight.
And it's also, for given those circumstances, Sosa's not a great opponent because he is a fighter who's hard to discourage with punching power.
And he's solid on his feet. Roy Jones has been talking about Sosa landing the harder punches. Harold Letterman said Sosa's landing the harder punches. Roy, I'm coming to the conclusion that if that's the case, it's partially because Sosa is balanced on his feet far more often than is Yuriorkis Gamboa.
Far more often and probably better prepared for this fight because he already knew he was preparing for it.
We're in the 9th round of the scheduled 10. There was a time a decade ago when you wouldn't have thought it possible for a fighter of Gamboa's talent to lose to a pure worker, a gym rat like Jason Sosa. But it's certainly possible right now with 3 minutes and 11 seconds remaining in the fight.
Oh, good body shot by Sosa. Very good body shot.
Another round in which CompuBox found the edge for Sosa. 16 landed punches to 9 for Gamboa. 3 minutes to go.
That's it. Don't hold him, so there's no penalty.
Okay. Okay. Vamos al último round.
Okay.
This is Camden trainer Raul Rivas. Not one of the training stars of the sport, but a guy who gives a solid effort and has clearly prepared Jason Sosa for the challenge of fighting Yuriorkis Gamboa here tonight.
Keep it clean.
See what happens in this round. Should Gamboa go the distance and lose the decision it appears he's heading for? In a strange way, Roy, it could be a stabilizing fight for him if he's given other opportunity.
Yep.
Because he's shown a certain level of determination, even with the holding. And with his boxing, which is more careful than we've seen him box recently.
What's crazy, Max, is I think his corner told him that he's won the fight pretty much and take it easy this round. And that's bad information, I think, because I'm not sure that he's won the fight already.
No, but it would be interesting to see with more activity and this trainer in better shape with a longer training camp, what Gamboa could do.
Yes, it would.
If he doesn't survive this round, he may not get the opportunity at this level for a minute.
Or it could be the end of his career. It's been a difficult struggle. He's had all sorts of problems outside the ring. He hasn't made the kind of money that he expected to make. He's had legal difficulties. He's been with several promoters and made some peremptory changes in his promotional situations, which probably were not advisable at the time. In a lot of ways, Yuriorkis Gamboa has been his own worst enemy. He's a very likable person. You would like for him to have done better, but at the end of the day, it certainly appears at this moment that we'll look back at the career of Yuriorkis Gamboa as a disappointment.
1 point holding.
And there's another
1
point
holding.
down as Lipton finally takes the penalty point he's been threatening for the last few rounds.
I feel that's at this juncture gratuitous. I know he said he was going to do it, but you got a little bit over a minute left in the last round of the fight. I don't know.
It's just been the story of Gamboa's life as a professional fighter in the United States. Things don't go his way.
Break.
But like you say, Jim, he also has a lot to do with that.
Yeah. And in terms of his career ending, that would be up to him because he is a name. And if he's perceived as vulnerable, there will be plenty of young fighters whose managers feel and promoters feel that they could put Gamboa's pelt on their young fighter's wall, on their resume. So he will likely have the opportunity to fight, even as an opponent,
Well, as long as he doesn't get knocked out, Max, his argument is going to be, hey, I didn't get the opportunity to properly prepare for this fight. So what happens if I got my new trainer and I get 6 weeks to truly prepare? How will I do then? That's how you want to make his last judgment.
I'll be impressed with his stick-to-itiveness if he makes the decision to stick with this trainer and try it one more time. I'm just not sure that's what's going to happen.
And he's 35 years old. He's not a spring chicken, particularly for this weight class.
He bought a house in Cuba. He may be done with this. The affectionate hug between both fighters at the end of 10 rounds. The trainer, Pedro Roque Otano, in Gamboa's corner, trying to put the best face on it possible. Surely he's telling Yuriorkis, you did what you had to do, you won the fight. And there's Harold Letterman's unofficial scorecard. And you see the 8s. 8 in the 7th round because of a knockdown, 8 in the 10th round because of penalty point deduction. Very difficult to win a 10-round fight when you've been knocked down and had a penalty point assessed against you.
And been outworked in a lot of the rounds.
By a worker B. Harold, who are the official judges who will render this decision?
Okay, Jim. John McKay, really veteran judge. He's been around forever. You see 30 title fights. He's a very good judge. Robin Taylor, relatively new. She's worked 18 title fights. You know, she's on the way up. She does a good job all the time. Don Trello was picked as one of the judges for Canelo Alvarez and Yuriorkis Gamboa. Canelo Alvarez and Triple G. And he called that fight a draw, which I didn't think was right. I thought Triple G won the fight.
Particularly when he gave the 7th round to Canelo Alvarez.
That's right. That 7th round he gave to Canelo Alvarez. You're 100% correct. But anyway,
even Adelaide Bird saw that the 7th round was a Golovkin round.
Yep. But anyway, be as it may, I'm the one that brought Don Treller into boxing, so I got to take responsibility for him. So he usually does a good job.
Raul Rivas taking the gloves off of Jason Sosa, who, as usual, put in a full effort. Seemed to have been well prepared for the fight. Knew what he wanted to do against the former Cuban amateur star. Sosa, who got a controversial draw against Nicholas Walters here on HBO a couple of years ago, and then was thoroughly outclassed earlier this year by Vasily Lomachenko, may tonight have pulled off the upset win that he's been hoping for. And I say upset win, although many here at ringside, as Mac Kellerman said at the beginning of the fight, actually favored Sosa, feeling that so many bad things had happened in Gamboa's career that maybe on short notice he wouldn't be ready to put forth the kind of effort necessary to beat a guy who was going to be consistent and working hard in the ring. Michael Buffer is reading the official scores and now appears ready to go. So let's see what Michael Buffer has to tell us about who has won the fight.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 10 rounds of boxing, we go to the scorecards. Robin Taylor scores this bout 94-94 even. John McKay has it 95-93. And Don Trolla scores it 96-92. The winner by majority decision, Yuriorkis Gamboa.
Well, sometimes it doesn't go your way, and sometimes it does. And this time, Yuriorkis Gamboa, despite a lot of adversity in the fight, finds the good fortune necessary to earn a decision win.
Look, if not for the point deduction and the knockdown, I could see it. I could see Gamboa shading it because there were some close rounds where that it appeared Sosa was coming on, but in the end, maybe Gamboa actually did better in those rounds. But boy, that's tough for Sosa to get those extra 2 points in a 10-round fight, appear to win other rounds cleanly, and still lose the decision. But you know what? After that draw with Nicholas Walters, I don't think you can complain.
Close enough to have gone either way, Roy?
I think it could have went either way, Jim. We were looking at the aggressive fighter, and a lot of times some judges go to the aggressive guy, but it could have gone either way.
Let's take a look at the final CompuBox numbers to see if they tell us anything about this. Total punches, Yuriorkis Gamboa, 129 out of 450. Jason Sosa, 132 out of 399. So Gamboa more active in total punches and Sosa more accurate by CompuBox count. Power shots, the edge to Sosa. Gamboa goes to 28-2.
We're in New York City for HBO's World Championship.